Welcome to this episode of Fake or Fact, where you get to test your wits against me, Dr. Ugo, as we take on medical misinformation and, yes, have some fun too. Today we have the Isaiah Hemmingway, a fashion designer and icon from the greater Detroit area, who took New York City and really the world by storm with his self-titled fashion line, Isaiah Hemmingway. He's been in GQ, he's been in Vogue, and he's had his line featured on the Grammys red carpet recently too. Welcome, Isaiah, to the show.
Hello, I'm glad to be here. It's great to be a part of Fake or Fact.
We appreciate you stepping up to try to battle medical misinformation. Now, I should tell you all, we have a mystery topic which Isaiah does not know about, and that he's been brave enough to show up here anyway to answer. And today's mystery topic is the vegan diet.
I love it. I love it.
So today we're going to find out if Isaiah is a vegan or a vegan wannabe. So it's all going to, we're going to come to the bottom of that today. All right, so question number one, fake or fact. A vegan is someone who chooses to avoid meat, poultry, fish, and seafood, but does sometimes consume dairies and eggs. Is that fake or is that fact?
Fake.
That is correct. You tell me why that's fake.
If you're a vegan, you don't eat any dairy. Like, I know that off top, so that's why that would be fake.
That's right. I'm more described as vegetarian. A vegan usually consumes no animal products, and sometimes that even extends into their lifestyle, where they don't use anything that has come from an animal, sometimes even extending to honey or even the materials they use around their home or their fashion. So it's interesting. Roughly 1 out of 20 Americans identify as vegetarian, but for those who are truly vegan, it's more like 1 out of 200. Worldwide, there are like 1.5 billion vegetarians and about 79 million vegans. And most vegans live in India, and also Germany, Mexico, and then the US comes in around number 4. All right, so question number 2, fake or fact? It is not healthy to have an exclusively plant-based diet. Is that fake or is that fact?
Fake.
Fake, that's right. And you're right. And I know Isaiah always tells me the benefits he's found himself of having a plant-based diet. And it's true. Although you might think that the restriction of animal products out of your diet might be harmful, it's actually been found to improve weight management, decrease obesity, decrease hypertension, cholesterol levels, heart problems, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and even arguably increase life. And so for those of you who are vegan or vegetarian, that is, in general, a healthy lifestyle to have. So question number 3 is actually a 2-point question. If you get this right, because it's a little harder, you get 2 points. All right, so the question is, a vegan diet risks being low in vitamin B12, and that can cause anemia, muscle weakness, and tingling of the hands and feet. I'll say that again. A vegan diet risks being low in vitamin B12, which can cause anemia, muscle weakness, and tingling of the hands and feet. Is that fake or is that fact?
Fact.
That is correct. So have you heard that before or you just guessed?
I actually heard that before. I mean, like for me, I usually have like protein shakes to really keep build my muscle after runs. So I heard that before though, so I definitely try to keep protein.
Yeah, so that's an important thing to follow and to be aware of if you follow a plant-based diet, especially exclusively. Vitamin B12, also called cobalamin, is a water-soluble vitamin found in substantial amounts, usually just in animal foods. So the risk of having a low level of B12 is definitely more common in strict vegetarians and vegans. And it can cause anemia, muscle weakness, tingling of the hands and feet. And so the solution is simple. Like you said, to have foods or shakes that are fortified in B12, or just to go ahead and take B12 supplements. It doesn't take that much to make sure that you're reaching your daily required amount. And so this is a conversation you should definitely have with your doctor if you decided to have an exclusively plant-based diet. You should keep an eye on your calcium, iron, and zinc levels as well. All right, so Isaiah, you're rocking it. You're 4 points out of 4 at this point. And our question number 4, regular question, fake or fact? A vegan diet is the only diet proven to date to decrease heart disease in people. I'll say it again. A vegan diet is the only diet that's proven to decrease the risk of heart disease. Is that fake or is that fact?
That seems like it's fake.
You're good. That's right. That's correct. So yes, there have been research that have proved that vegan diets have been likely to decrease heart disease, but it's not just limited to strict vegan diets. Vegetarian diets, plant-based diets, even diets like the Mediterranean diets are also found to be healthy for people as well. It's interesting that in the 1950s, we noticed that people who came from Mediterranean countries like Greece, Italy, and other countries around there had very low rates of heart disease. And we know that they had a very high plant-based diet. And so you would see them not only eating foods that were plant-based, but also having fish and seafood in moderate amounts, and occasionally having red meat and sweets. And those were also found to have cardiovascular benefit too. Even with the use of oils, like monounsaturated oils, they were found to have decreased risk in cardiovascular disease when tested as well. So it's not just you vegans who get to enjoy in having decreased heart risk. There are many diets that could achieve that as well. All right, so you now have, I think, 5 points. We have another two-pointer for you. Fake or fact? Red meat is bad for you. This is a two-pointer. Again, fake or fact? Red meat is bad for you. What do you think?
As a blanket statement, I would say fake, but
Let's see the sign.
Fact.
So
Fact.
Last second he switched to fact, and last second he got it wrong. So you were right there with the thinking. So the tricky thing, and this is a thing that trips up not only people in general, but those of us who have to take these exams, anytime they give you a blanket statement, it has to be true pretty much 100% of the time. And is it true that red meat is bad for you 100% of the time? The answer is no. So it's fake only because it's stated as an absolute blanket statement. So you were almost there, but in the last second, your gut just lied to you. All right, so
you know what? I should get 1 of 2 points.
And you will get none of them. But so red meat, yes, in excess, it can increase heart disease and it can increase cholesterol levels. And even as a gastroenterologist, we see it can be associated in excess with having a higher risk of cancers like colon cancer. However, it's not rat poison, it's not cyanide. In moderate amounts, it's actually good for you. And another thing to remember is that sometimes it's not just the fact that it's red meat, but also a lot of the risks sometimes come from eating processed meats as well. And what are processed meats? Processed meats are some of those deli meats or those meats that have gone through a process where you just know they can sit in your house for weeks to months at a time without going bad. The fresher it is, the more likely it is to spoil after a reasonable amount of time. Those are meats that have not been put through a whole processing process. And those are healthier for you. And so, yes, blanket statement, red meat is bad for you, that is fake. So question number 6, fake or fact? Vegan diets are low in protein. Is that fake or is that fact?
Again, it's sort of a blanket statement. Vegan diets are low in protein.
Don't overthink it.
I would say fact.
Facts. So I totally tricked you right at the end. The answer. That was definitely fake. So yeah, you cannot say that vegan diets are low in proteins because you have beans, broccoli, chickpeas, greens, lentils, butter, nut seeds, peas, you name it. You have a lot of great sources of protein in plant-based foods. Also potatoes, also quinoa, also seaweed, also soy, also spinach, also tofu. So no, there are many great protein sources that come from plants. In fact, even for those of us who are not vegan or vegetarian, typically the recommendation is that the quarter of your plate that does have proteins, not the full quarter should just come from animal sources. So it shouldn't just be only fish or seafood. you want some of those proteins coming from beans and spinach and other plant-based items as well. All right, so you were doing so well, but you let me trick you. All right, so now we're back to our last question, question number 7, which is also a 2-pointer. Currently, Isaiah is at 5 points. Let's see if he can take it to 7 out of 10 possible points to make it somewhat decent, or if he's going to end with with a very with the B plus or B minus. Let's see. All right. So question number 7, fake or fact? All vegan diets are healthy. Is that fake or is that fact?
It's a blanket statement, so I'll say fake.
That's right. Exactly. So, and it's important to point this out. You can't have a conversation about vegan foods and talk about the benefits without realizing that just because you're cutting out animal foods doesn't mean you've created animal foods or products, doesn't mean you've created a diet that's healthy. For people who are eating a lot of frozen products that might be very processed, high with sugar or salt, for people who are doing some that have very high starch content, for people who are having some of the meatless burgers, some of them are great, are great sources of proteins, minerals, vitamins, but some of them have a lot of processed, have been heavily processed and have a lot of saturated fats in them. So not all vegan foods are good foods. It's like the word organic. Just because something exists naturally in nature doesn't mean it's necessarily good for you. And the same thing applies to vegan foods also. So you'd be missing out on the benefit of having a plant-based diet if you didn't have a nice and robust, healthy, diverse samplings of the different types of plants that you have available to you, whether it's green leafy, whether it's starchy, red orange, legumes. There are many types of vegetables, and you should have the full sample on your plate. Hopefully they're nice and not processed, and not necessarily too filled with starches or sugars or salts. All right, so how did you do, Isaiah? Isaiah, right at the end, pulled up a 2-pointer and got a 7 out of 10, so congratulations.
Thank you.
You are the highest scoring fashionista we've had on this show. Of course, you're the only one, but who's counting? All right, so thank you once again, Isaiah, for coming on the show to help spread truth information about the vegan diet and other aspects of health. How can people catch you and what you're doing in this world or on social media? First,
I would like to say thank you, Dr. Ugo. I've been a fan of Fake or Fact. I follow you on Instagram, so to be part of your show on YouTube, it's been a blast. And furthermore, most people, you can really just Google Isaiah Hemmingway. You can follow me on Instagram at iHemmingway. It's IHEMMINGWAY. Instagram at iHemmingway, and Facebook Isaiah Hemmingway as well.
The man says Google him. You want him? Google him. All right. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Fake or Fact. See you next time. Bye.